Hello, welcome to the THC show. I'm Neil Magnuson, your host. This is a show about truth, hope, and change. All those things are very important in the world we're living in right now. Today on the show, we'll have 8 out of 10 Glenn join us for the 420 session as always, and Jerry Martin will be here for the Martin Medical Moment. And today we are in Vancouver as usual, broadcasting from the Healing Wave Cannabis Substitution Program RV. For those who don't know, maybe I'll recap a little bit about what's happened here. The Cannabis Substitution Program has been running for 3.5 years. We ran that program from a place 1 block over on Hastings Street. Every Thursday and Sunday we would have long lineups of people and we would give away high-dose edibles. The City of Vancouver, after 2.5 years of running that project, decided to pass a motion unanimously to support low-barrier access to cannabis for the opioid crisis. And so after a year of looking, we finally found a storefront, and right just down the street here we opened this beautiful place and started doing low barrier access to cannabis and started doing our cannabis substitution program from inside the store. The city licensing department, however, drooling over the idea of another $30,000 for a cannabis license, told us to cease and desist until we had such a license. And we tried to explain and get that all, worked out, but in the end, they wouldn't back off of their original threat to our landlord. He felt he had no choice but to take us to court and try to evict us. And the judge, who we had asked for 6 months to get our licenses in place because we have an application to the federal government for being able to do what we do here, he decided rather than help us keep helping people, that our hands were unclean and that we're breaking Canadian law by saving people's lives with cannabis. And so he gave us 7 days to get out, and that was over a week ago now. So this is the start of our second week of now being in the RV. You can see here where we're helping people from here. So what we do here and what we were doing at Vandu for 3.5 years before we managed to move into our store and now to here is we're helping people with their addictions to opioids by giving out high-dose cannabis edibles, which can both help them get through the withdrawal from the hard drugs, which is a very difficult thing to do, and then also substitute the use of the other drugs that they were using. And many, many people now will tell you that cannabis has saved their lives, and there's lots of people who will say, been there, done that, when it comes to those hard drugs, and that all they are now is cannabis consumers. At Vandu, what we had was a system where we would just put together care packs for people. We have 4 to 6 edibles per care pack, and that would be that for that. I mean, there was some choice between indica and sativa and CBD, but for the most part, they were just care packs that hopefully could help them if they used them properly, but not really what they would like to have if they were to choose for themselves in all cases. So here and at the store, what we put together was a substitution project 2.0, if you will. They got to choose 420 milligrams every 4 days from a wide variety of different things that they could use for themselves. And we had 250, we still have over 250 people on that program. When we moved to the store, we registered people as members. We had them fill out an intake information form so that we could do some research on how people were using it and things like that. And every time people come up and get their 4-day resupply of 420 milligrams, they fill out an ongoing survey to answer some questions so that we can better understand what's working and if there's problems and how it works and in what dose and that sort of thing. So it's pretty disgusting, really, that we're out here in an RV doing this. It's great that this team of people that I work with has the resilience and the creativity and the perseverance to be able to find a way to continue and not stop doing what we're doing. As you can probably tell, helping people get off of opioids, having over 250 people taking advantage of what we're doing, and having been done that for 3.5 years, it is really serious that we continue to do what we're doing. It would be very serious and cause serious harm if we were to all of a sudden have to stop doing this. There would be, of those 250 people, the vast majority of them would be terribly upset and not know quite what to do about it, not know how to fill the need that we've been filling for them, and they'd probably end up back on the streets, back into the poison drug supply, and they would be at risk of death and overdose in that process. So it is very important that we continue to find ways to continue to operate, and so that's what we've done. And this is our little RV that, and I mean little, that we're now doing it from. Limited headroom, that's one of the biggest issues in here for sure. But still, we have a space. We have a space heater. It's starting to get pretty cold here. And we have hope. We do have hope that we're going to have a storefront again soon. We do have some leads that we're following, or one in particular that looks pretty good. And we certainly have an obligation as a society that's been doing this and helping people in the way that we have to find a storefront again, one way or another. Maybe we have to commandeer one, I'm not sure. There's lots of vacant, empty buildings around here. But we're going to do something to make sure that we can go back and start to and continue to provide the service that we were providing in the Healing Wave Dispensary storefront. The Healing Wave van, of course, has its limitations, both for me and the volunteers that are helping out here. It has its limitations with respect to the customers and what they have available to them. In our store, we had display cabinets, 7 of them set up, and there was all kinds of products that we had there that people could choose from. And we still have most of those products available, but we don't have the ability to display them. And so it's a matter of people understanding that what we had from past service that we've provided to them, or from you know, just our volunteers and staff that are explaining to people what we have and trying to help them with their needs as they present their needs. So it's really a diminished capacity from where we were. This has put great pressure on us to have to find a vehicle right away to be able to do this from. To now be at the same time as trying to operate this, we're also looking to try to find a storefront right in this area, and all the rest that we have to do to make this project work. The donations are so important, and the donators are so important. A shout out to Marie, by the way, who sent a donation again. She's on a fixed limited income, and still manages to send us something, and every little bit counts for sure. Our CSP program just the other day was getting right down low on supplies, so we didn't have as good a choice as we would like to have that day, but we did manage to solve that by the end of the day. And then Mary, our baker, our number one CSP baker, came through with another huge donation for us of cookies and things like that. So we are continuing on. Hey, George and Andrew, you wanna say hi to the camera there? Hi, Andrew.
How you doing out there?
Hey, George.
To be here. It's not too cramped. I'm sitting down. George is sitting down.
Well, you're short, so it's a little bit easier for you.
I get to stand up down here at CSP. Well, we still got lots of people today. We had a long lineup of CSP today. Yeah. And we still have a lineup right here outside the window. Everybody needs to get their medicine out here. Everybody needs to be on marijuana. So we stopped the violence, we stopped the theft and everything going on here. The streets will be better for people to come down to. We have to make it different down here, and we're trying to make a change right here.
Yeah, and we have made a big difference, certainly in this neighborhood over the last 5 come and tell us how upset they are that we're not in our store anymore. Thank us for continuing on. Tell us how much it's of value to them. That's kind of what keeps us going, is we know all these people rely on us to such great degrees. And there's some really good people down here that are struggling in their life. You come to find that out when you come down here, that this could be any one of us there, but for the grace of nature, we could be ending up here. You miss a couple of paychecks and now you can't pay your rent, and now you're out on the streets, and many people have lost their jobs now with what's going on with COVID, and so it's very important that we be able to continue what we're doing. It's extremely important that well, here, I got something I can share with you. We have a few of these support.
This is 260.
Okay. This one is from Professor Zachary Walsh. He's one of the foremost experts on cannabis as a substitution for opioids. And he wrote us this letter. To whom it may concern, I am writing to vigorously support Mr. Neil Magnuson and the operation of his Cannabis Substitution Project, Serious Hope Society. I'm a professor of psychology at the University of British Columbia, where I had a research lab focused on problematic substance use in general and cannabis use specifically. My research on cannabis use has been presented to diverse audiences, including the Canadian Senate, the Canadian House of Commons, and the Government of Uruguay, and has been included in testimony to the Supreme Courts of British Columbia, Ontario, and Nova Scotia. I am the lead investigator for several ongoing studies of cannabis use and health, including studies funded by the Canadian Institutes of Health Research and others. A key topic of my research has involved examining the potential of cannabis medicines to mitigate the opioid misuse. I have also published several studies focused on the operations of cannabis dispensaries and barriers to cannabis access. Based on my expertise in this area and my careful reading of the most up-to-date research, I believe the interfering with Mr. Magnuson's Cannabis Substitution Project will increase risk of ongoing overdose among a very high-risk population. As such, I strongly urge quick action to reduce pressure on his operation and to allow him to continue. Has increased risk among some very vulnerable citizens, and I'm concerned that this is a terrible time to withdraw valuable supports. As a clinical researcher in the area of addiction and mental health for over a decade, I have authored several highly cited studies that clearly point to the substitution effect by which cannabis is used purposely to reduce opioid use. As a clinical psychologist, I have also encountered this phenomenon firsthand in treating individuals of high risk of opioid overdose. Our research has also identified long-standing barriers for safe and sufficient access to medical cannabis, particularly among the marginalized and very low-income individuals who comprise the majority of Mr. Magnuson's clients. By providing medical cannabis at no cost or low cost to individuals who are at extremely high risk of opioid overdose, Mr. Magnuson is providing a tremendous service not only to his clients, but also to the overworked service providers whose load is lightened by the service to high-need individuals. In light of the terrible toll of the overdose crisis and the tragic exacerbation associated with the COVID pandemic, Mr. Magnuson's work is more important now than ever before. This work fills a vital need for an underserved and jeopardized community in the midst of one of the greatest health crises in Canadian history. In the dire moment, Mr. Magnuson's work should be lauded and supported. He should not be presented with obstacles. Please do not hesitate to contact for further discussion. Professor Zachary Walsh. We have several of these letters. We have one from M.J. Malloy, from the councillor that passed the motion, from a psychiatric nurse on the downtown east side here. And exactly what Mr. Walsh is alluding to not happening to us is what has happened to us. And it really bothers me a lot, because we definitely appealed to all levels of government, to the key people in key places, to the addictions minister, to the premier of this province, to our local MLA, to the federal health minister, to our local municipal politicians as well. And although we got supportive, talk from all of them and some supportive letters, no one has stepped up to make sure that we didn't get evicted from our space. No one stepped up to get us back in there where we can help people properly. The federal government has remained silent on all of this. They didn't send us anything of support. We got no meaningful support of any kind. We got Mr. Seguin, who's in the Minister of Health's office, telling us that he got our submission, and that was a month and a half ago. That was long before the case for eviction was coming before the courts. Our urgent emergency request was that he somehow intervene to prevent that court case from even happening. And yet there was nothing, not a word. When the court case came and went, and the judge decided that our hands are somehow unclean because it's against the criminal law to be providing cannabis to people to help them get off of opioids, that somehow a law that is not protecting anybody from harm but is preventing their lives from being saved has some effect. And it had effect in that courtroom with Justice Majawa telling us that our hands are unclean. Well, Mr. Majawa decided that he'd put blood on his hands and see what he could do to punish us for breaking Canadian law, and ordered us out of our store in 7 days, a near impossible task, and a request or a demand that definitely put great pressure on us and very closely came to having us ceasing our operation even for a short time, which even for a short time is going to put serious risk onto people that are vulnerable and don't deserve it. So, you know, shame on him for upholding a law that only has negative consequences to it. There is no positivity in restricting access to cannabis for Canadians. It does nothing for Canadians to restrict access to medical cannabis products for Canadians. It protects corporate money interests, and that is a serious situation that we have here, that our governments are willing to protect corporate financial interests and allow vulnerable people to fall by the wayside and suffer great risk of death. And they're willing to do that. This speaks volumes to where we are as a country and where we are as a society when our governments have the intention of protecting financial interests and have no intention of helping to save the lives of the very, very vulnerable in our society. And I'm really disgusted by all of that. This project of ours was going to do one of two things. We were doing it properly. We were providing cannabis the way that it should be provided, at prices that make sense. And this was either going to cause the government to license what we're doing the way that we're doing it, in a way that can be duplicated right across Canada in all of the communities that are suffering the way that we're suffering here in Vancouver. Or it was going to expose the true intentions of our public servants, and especially our federal government. And that's what's going on. I don't know if we're saved by the bell at this point, but that's the 419 warning. And we're going to move into the 420 session. But while we have this session, just think about what this all means. That this amazing plant that has been proven to be beneficial and helping people get off of opioids is not being allowed to be presented and made as an option to people, because our governments are more interested in providing protection for financial interests, for a monopoly with artificially inflated prices, trying to take over the whole industry of providing cannabis to Canadians that was being done by a green and grey market leading up to so-called legalization, which makes them even more criminals than they were before, with more ways to go after them and more money to do that, all to be a protection racket and run a protection racket for this government takeover of the industry and the monopoly that they have going. So that brings us to the 420 session. We try to lighten it up a little bit. And today, as always on the show for 420, Glenn Wells joins us, 8 out of 10 Glenn, CannaMatch.ca. Oh, is that what you're trying to get in? Okay.
Well, that's yours.
Thank you for that. We got the 420 there, in case anybody's not 100% sure.
There's mine.
Although it's always 420 somewhere, apparently.
Now, mine has shatter in it. He doesn't, because he doesn't like shatter in his joints.
Good. Yes. Trying to point out I'm a lightweight or what?
No. I was going to say Neil likes shatter in his joints.
Everybody does.
Hey, no, sir. Age before looks, they say, right?
Yeah.
Age before beauty, or beauty before age. I don't know.
You got to have one or the other. If you don't got beauty, you better get to be old pretty quick, or you won't get respect. Video games. So 8 out of 10, Glenn, what's going on?
Wow, we got a few things this week. We got a protest out in Mission. If you're out in the Mission area, we're going to be giving out half-gram bags at the new BC Cannabis store in Mission. It's on the Lougheed Highway where Walmart is, right beside the Super Clips, I think it is, or Great Clips store.
Right.
We'll have Bob there. Bob Wolseley's going to be there.
Nice.
Darren's going to be there. Josh, the Pot Squatch, is going to be there. So you guys,
the Valley East crew.
Yes, that's pretty much it.
That's
9:30 Saturday morning. Come on down. Support us. Get a free bag. We'll show people what real weed is, not government weed.
I see. So we're going to talk about the problems with the government cannabis stores. That's what you're doing there?
Yep.
The biggest problem, of course, being that they're shutting out anybody else from getting into that marketplace, and there's a lot of people that would really like to sell cannabis. It's something that's good to do.
Non-chemical cannabis.
Well, yeah, if you want to sell cannabis, you want to sell good cannabis that's that's going to be, appreciated by the connoisseur.
Yeah, and not everybody has an irradiating machine at home that
Nor
sells
should
it.
they have.
No, I know.
I don't know what you'd want to irradiate, although you can put it in a microwave probably, that's close.
Apparently that's what the government does. They irradiate our food and they irradiate our weed. Well, if you buy it from them, right?
That's just crazy, they got to keep the microbe count down apparently. Like, why didn't we have to keep the microbe count down like for the thousands and millions of years before this?
Yeah, nobody ever died. Nobody ever complained. Nobody ever sued anybody.
I don't know about microbes. I don't know about other fruits and vegetables. I do know about cannabis, and nobody's ever died from microbes on cannabis.
No. What else do we got happening?
I want to talk about a little bit.
Yeah, AeroFresh.
The stuff you brought last week.
Yeah,
the AeroFresh.
Yes.
We have the RV here.
Yes.
This RV has under 24,000 miles on it, by the way.
Yep.
It's almost 40 years old. It's a 1981, and it's got under 24,000 miles. That means it's been sitting for a long time. It's been sitting in a garage for most of its life, and it had a musty smell in here.
Yep.
And that was the thing you noticed right away when you got in was, it's got a pretty musty smell in here. Well, I put this jar of AeroFresh.
$40.
I'm not getting paid for this, by the way.
we're
Maybe
not.
I should be.
Maybe we'll work out. We're going to get free
you never
AeroFresh.
know.
We got free AeroFresh.
Free AeroFresh, that'd be payment. But anyway, it really works because within 24 hours coming into the RV, what you noticed was a hint of this and not that musty smell.
No cannabis smell, no musty smell, nothing
well,
like
we
that,
definitely have had cannabis smell in here a little bit sometimes. But
Mike says it's great. It's going. He's got lots of new accounts from our shout-outs to him.
Good.
So that's really nice of him to tell us that we're doing great.
Perfect.
Yeah. And now we got this.
Well, no, we're not going to talk
No,
about that yet. We're not going to talk about that yet. We're going to talk about that
How's
a
your
little.
doobie?
Don't worry, we'll talk about it because now you got to know. I know you all out there. You see something like that, you got to know. A little later on in the show, we'll talk about what he was going to show us on his phone there.
I forgot. You get smoking doobies and you get excited. And
The 420 session works.
Look at the smoke going out the window.
I don't know.
I think we're just, she's getting it all right there. Contact high.
You guys are not here on Monday.
No, I know.
We're closed on Monday. We're open 6 days a week.
You'd like to be here on Monday, yeah.
I know. People would like to have us here all day, all night, every day, every
24 hours
night.
a day.
And who knows in the future, maybe we'll be a 7-Eleven a week. But for now, Daddy needs his sleep once in a while, and I need a day off because there's lots of other things to do.
Go get a night shift.
Yeah, but right now
It could be more dangerous. Would you think?
I don't worry about danger here. You know. We have so much goodwill amongst the community.
And the community backs you up.
If anybody was we don't leave stuff in the van anyway. But I mean, there was somebody made a comment about hey, that's a van they sell weed out of. And Buddy said, don't you even fucking think about it, man. Like seriously.
I love it when people do that.
And I know that about so many people. They understand that we're helping people. We're helping their friends.
Yep.
We're making this a better community by being here. And so that we've got the protection of the neighborhood to a large extent.
And you're helping that their friends
can't guarantee nothing.
See them the next day because they're not doing fentanyl and maybe dying that night, and then their friends wouldn't see them. So you're helping them see their friends.
We get firsthand so many people thanking us for what we're doing here and telling us how it's helping.
That's good.
It is very good. We have people coming here and purchasing for their friends and family members that can't get in and things like that as well.
Yeah, last week you had somebody come here and get something for his daughter who was in a car accident.
Exactly.
Right?
And they were coming down here, to help her get the drugs that she was going to take, whether her parents were helping her or not. It's a very touchy situation what to do as a parent in those situations. But in this case, the parent thought that the child was, not the child, because you're not talking about children anymore here, but that their family member was, at some risk coming down here. And they wanted to make sure that they were going to be okay. And then they ended up coming here and getting a whole lesson about cannabis edibles and then deciding to go that route.
And then they can go educate someone else too,
exactly.
right?
Yeah. That's very powerful as well.
We should say thank you to Kyle Gamsey for your edibles too. You got a
bag here, Kyle?
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know if it was full when you gave it to him, but
no, I
we got
the same bag. So he's got 2 100-gram bars in there.
We'll just put it up here by the pineapple.
There you go. Make sure the pineapple don't eat the edibles,
because every every like retro RV has to have a pineapple.
Are you guys smoking the joint I gave you?
I don't know if we can.
Nice.
Can we get a little shot of the mural outside there? The yeah, that is just.
Is it?
That's what's out our window. This really feels a little bit like Haight-Ashbury in the late '60s or something like that. You know,
We need some peace signs.
you know, just helping people coming to the side of an RV to get their weed. You know.
Yeah.
The difference is the police haven't been here, and
That's
it
good.
wouldn't have taken very long.
And you're like right across the street from it, anyways.
Yeah,
They're like right
the courthouse is right there.
There it is. There,
And
you can see
the
vehicles.
police station is just right up there.
Yeah.
And we have the police coming by all the time. We have sheriffs and lawyers and prosecutors and judges with their security detail walking back and forth here all the time. And the difference now is that 10 years ago, even not even probably that many years ago, you know, you wouldn't get away with doing this. You'd have police here telling you to stop, and if you didn't stop, they'd come and steal all your stuff and then make it even worse and all the rest of that. And we haven't seen anybody of that type here at all. I mean, part of that is kind of sad that we haven't had coastal health here.
Yeah.
You know, or maybe the judge that kicked us out of our store, you know, maybe he should drop in and just see what's going on here, and you know, listen to some of the people talk about how it helps them, and some of the stories about, you know, haven't been doing crack cocaine for 23 days. The fella said the other day here, he said 23 days clean on crack cocaine because of you folks here.
18 years because of cannabis here.
We get it all the time here, and that judge has never come down here and seen any of it, yet he makes a judgment that just tosses all of the people that we're helping under a bus. You know, there you go, don't care about you.
No.
Oh, you're a bad boy, you should not be
These
selling
guys
weed,
do,
you know.
they're not bothering you or anything, so they know the difference that you're actually making. It's probably less calls that they have to go to where they have to pronounce somebody dead and stuff like that, so they understand that, yeah.
They do understand, and I know that. We've had several conversations, we had several interactions with police officers since in the 5 months that we've been here.
Yeah.
We had one fellow that didn't know where he lived. He didn't remember. He was in a wheelchair. He had come here. He had, I guess, gotten out of the hospital and didn't know where he lived. And
couldn't remember.
You know, couldn't remember where he lived. So, you know, we consoled him, got the police here, and eventually, just at the very last minute, it was crazy because we'd had these two Vancouver police officers here for hours trying to figure out, you know, asking him all kinds of questions and trying to figure this out. And then one of our regular friends came here and said, hey, I recognize him from one of the buildings up the street.
Oh, there we
and
go.
he named the building. I forget what it was. But as soon as he named that building, the fella's eyes lit right up. And the two VPD officers are like, are you kidding me? Like, seriously?
Okay, but now my brain would say, why didn't they just go back to the hospital and look on
that's what
piece
we
of
had
paper?
called the hospital,
Yeah, because his
and
address should have been there.
they didn't manage to find it for us.
Wow.
But they were coming to pick him up.
Oh, really?
That was the thing. They were going to come and pick him up.
Pick him up again.
And then we found out where he lived, and sure enough, he lived there. And I guess they just didn't let him out again for a while. But,
Or else he was really happy and didn't leave home for a while because he wanted to remember where he lived.
you know, we've had great interactions with the police. There's been several different incidents that have happened right around here, and you know, as it should be, right? I mean, they know the good that we're doing. I've had talks with them about our situation and what's going on here. They've wished me all the best. They've said they hope it gets worked out in our favor. I've never had any of them say anything other than that to us in a negative way.
I'm just posting the link to the events, I think.
I see.
Yep.
Okay, and so one more time on that. That's going to be Saturday at 9:30.
9:30. I can give you the address if you guys give me a minute here.
Now.
Give me a minute here.
If I had my phone, I could see what time it was. And then know. Oh, there it is.
All right. So it's going to be at 31956 Low Heat Highway, and it's Unit D130. We'll be there at 9:30 in the morning. We'll be handing out half gram. Here it is right here. I'll put the link in the comments again. We'll be handing out half gram of approved weed, not government weed, home what they call mom and pop, real market weed, non-black market. So come on down. We'll be sitting in the parking lot. Josh Potsquatch from Potsquatch Growers on YouTube. He's going to be there. He's going to be doing a live show. Bob Woolsey's going to be there. Darren Terry from BC Bud Guys is going to be there. I'll be there. So, because I only live a block away.
Yeah. I might be there, but I don't know yet because I don't live a block away from there. It's about an hour and a half.
Definitely invited. Yes.
I know.
Yep.
I'm kind of needed here at the Healing Wave RV.
Maybe Neil can come by. I don't know if he likes to trip out the mission or not.
Maybe.
I'll ask Alyssa if she's doing a show on Saturday. Maybe she'll feed you guys in if you guys are doing a live stream.
Sure. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, let me know. Yeah, so that's what we're going to do on Saturday. Isabel goes home, which is just across the street now at 9:30. So
I see Bert's at the window there. Hey, Bert. How you doing, buddy?
Congratulations on not staying down.
Oh, we would never.
Loving this.
No, we wouldn't stay
Look at the
down.
smile on your face.
Hey, is Jerry Martin out there?
I'm not seeing him.
You don't see Jerry?
Uh-oh.
He said he was coming. So I might have to have you in here, Bert. You want to come and talk into the camera and tell us about life?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
You got time?
Is there even room for me?
Oh, yeah,
Well,
I'll leave.
Glenn will go and you can come in.
Yeah.
We can make this work.
I don't want to boot anybody out, but
No, it's time. His time is over, and then maybe Jerry will come afterwards. We'll
Yeah,
see.
maybe. All right, we'll see.
All right, and we'll see you back because you're going to come back on the show here
Yeah, I will.
after I have a little chat with Bert and maybe Jerry.
And
We'll
if,
see.
and if Jerry comes, I'll wait till after Jerry, right?
Yes,
Okay,
exactly
but if
right.
he doesn't, after Bert. Gotcha.
Exactly.
Gotcha. All right.
There we go. Pre-planning on the run, live TV. It's a little bit cramped. Watch your head.
I did.
Yeah.
here and I'll collect the change when I get inside.
All right. Come on in, Bert. We'll let the...
I'll be right in.
Careful. You got to watch your head, too. I banged my head a few times. It lowers down when you get into the front part. I've had a whole bunch of these vans over my life, over the course of my life. And I'm never used to having it raised over there, so I had to be careful and learn not to bang my head by banging my head. That's how that works. So, Bert Easterbrook is an activist that's been around our community for a very long time, and in fact, he's here partly because of his dad, Guppy. Guppy Fish was a photographer for Cannabis Culture magazine, and such a fixture at the Amsterdam Cafe and at the Herb School when we had that. And he has this amazing friend named Bert, and Bert's big. I think he can probably fit into the thing there.
Yeah. Kind of been watching all the craziness that's been going on with politics and whatnot, and just thankful for the outcome with the American election.
Right. So you photographed a lot of weed in your life,
Well, yeah.
and a lot of weed events.
Yeah.
I mean, 420s for 20 years?
It's almost. 2003 was when I first, I guess, came into the cannabis community as an activist. Grew up with my father being an old school hippie grower, right? So, basically growing up, set up all these grows and stuff like that. I was kind of straight edge growing up, except for alcohol.
Well, you were an athlete.
Yeah, I wanted to be an athlete, so for me, the drugs and whatnot, Pops was very open and very honest about things. So for me, there wasn't much mystery, there wasn't any, rebellion to do with it, right? I wanted to go pro for football, and it was nice to have the opportunity and the option, but, for me, it was just kind of not a thing until after a shoulder surgery, and no meds were working. I was suffering insomnia where I was literally only getting like 1 hour of sleep a night.
You really had to come to terms with your dreams of being a pro football player not happening at that point.
It was pretty obvious the second that they said that they had to cut and all that sort of stuff. But just even finding cannabis was a nice little changeover, because it's like, you lose your dreams, happens to everybody, right?
Yeah.
But just to be able to get your health back and sanity, and just knowing that you're not going to be in 100% miserable pain all the time. There is some relief, and even just to take the edge off and allow me to sleep was a huge thing. And then once I started with other injuries, say like brain damage and stuff, wow, did I ever learn about cannabis's ability to help with neurogenesis and neuroprotective qualities when it comes to things like that.
It's nootropic. Did you know that? It's nootropic. I just learned that word today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Neurotropic, you mean?
No, nootropic. N-double-O, tropic.
Okay.
Yeah, and that means that, it's neurogenerative as well.
Yeah,
it helps
regrow,
rebuild things.
yeah.
But some of the learning processes and new things are this nootropic part of it. We could ask Google. You want to ask Google?
Oh, well,
You could also ask Jerry Martin. He has arrived.
Jerry's here.
Mr. Martin has arrived. I see his smiling face.
Because, I don't know.
Yeah,
I did it before and it worked pretty good, so let's try that. Definition of nootropic, Google.
Here's the definition of nootropic.
Right
Of
now
a drug
we have
used to enhance memory or other cognitive functions.
$6 a gram.
Yep.
That's it.
Literally, after I had a fever 2 nights in a row, where quite literally I lost childhood memories, lost the confidence to drive, and I'm like a driver at heart.
Yeah.
I had even been at my job for a decade, and when I went back after the fever and all that sort of stuff, it took me 3 years of shadowing people just to get used to doing my job again. And when I had lost my memory and had lost some of my function, between having a puff of some cannabis or an oral dose, right, would all of a sudden just start bringing back memories and just general feelings of, okay, I remember this. And to be honest, LSD.
Right?
Yeah, small doses of LSD. It was quite literally like, being on the Starship Enterprise, and say one of their crystalline circuit boards is smashed or whatever, drop a hit of acid or whatever, and quite literally it was like they had just pulled out that broken circuit board, slammed a new one back in, and you just have that moment of, oh, I get it. I don't know what it is, but I get it. And then you start to realize that, say for me, some of the old conversations that I would have, you go to just kind of have your conversation, all of a sudden it's just like you get stuck in a meat locker with a vacuum, and you're just like, why am I in this dark room? How did I get here? And it's a really confusing place. Right? And then you just kind of start to withdraw from conversations and stuff because you realize, wait, there are things that are not there that used to be there. Don't know what it is, but then you have cannabis or something like LSD or magic mushrooms, right? And it is actually amazing how it allows the brain to rewire itself. And I was starting to get function back, childhood memories back. So there is so much to this, and this nootropic understanding about medicine. I 100% agree. It worked in that fashion for me, and I'm surprised it took this long for them to discover this.
Yeah, and Jerry Martin's going to come on the show in a little bit as well, and he's got a thing going on with that as well, doing a lot of work in that field as well.
Nice.
That there's a lot of understanding now about how these things can really help people that are suffering with depression and addiction and like what you say, memory loss and brain injuries and things like that as well. Mm-hmm. So that's really awesome. So of all the events you did, is there anything that stands out for you? Was it the last one with Cypress Hill? Or,
well, yeah. I'm not gonna lie. To have stood in the same general area as Cypress Hill is awesome. Got to meet Be Real years ago at the Kush Cup, on a weed cruise. So feeling very spoiled throughout my time in the cannabis community. It is hard to point to one because.
Well, okay, give us 3 or 4.
Well, the Mom Cups were pretty awesome. Same way. I miss the Kush Cup. I really do.
Yeah, with the boat cruises.
Yeah, the boat cruises.
Mark Pokeet, if you're out there watching, buddy, I hope you're doing all right.
Yeah. I hear you're doing well, brother. Good to hear that you're back on the interwebs and stuff. We miss you. And I don't know, the community.
And Asia Moon too.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, like, the community has definitely managed to make a scene out of it, in such an awesome way. Like, even when we had our studio, we were the first.
That was so cool.
Yeah, the first Kush Cup was held at our place, right? So we were proud that even just our facility was able to hold the first legally sanctioned medical cannabis tasting, and then after that the 420 weed market. So there's been so much, but it's the people, and just the sense of hope that this isn't fruitless, to say to my father, when he was on his deathbed, when he watched the throne speech about legalization, that, hey, Pops, we've done it. It's not exactly what we hoped for yet.
Yeah, we're not done yet.
We've knocked down the doors.
We've passed the tipping point.
Yeah, well, you can have conversations.
There's
with
no
an
going back
Joe.
now.
Yeah, and even like an ambulance attendant. Like you mentioned cannabis as a therapy, blah blah blah. Oh yeah, I've heard stuff like that. Yeah, and it's just such a different attitude now. So
all the magazines on the magazine rack, they're all positive magazine stories about cannabis. We're gonna get there. But for now, it's still corruption. It's still the group that provided us with prohibition is trying to provide us with legalization. And they just don't understand. Well, it's not that they don't understand. They just want to continue to rake in profits. And really, we need to give cannabis back to the people and get the prices down to what it should be for, you know, a simple, easy to produce commodity. And yeah.
Well, like what Jen's read out posting the other day about, you know, how much damage is being caused by not allowing access. You know, to me, it's a democide.
Yeah.
Right. You know, exactly what Trump was good at doing, where, you know, causing as much damage by not in getting yourself involved, right? So, you know, and when it comes to the opiate crisis and whatnot, you know, this is huge, and what you guys are doing is saving lives. And for anybody that doesn't understand it or believe it, please learn. it changes lives. It's medicine.
Well, thanks, Bert. I appreciate you a lot filling in some time and visiting us. Great to see you too. Go out the back there. Tell Jerry to come in. You know, he's got a minute or two, and he can come in.
Awesome. Be well,
He can come in
guys.
anytime he wants.
Take care.
That's all right. Thanks, Bert.
Love you guys.
I want to have you back for a longer session one of these days coming up.
Sounds great, bud.
Bert has so many stories. He's been to every event that ever happened, really, for, you know, the whole 15 years or more that we were really going strong with our cannabis events. But another guy that's been around for quite a while and doing quite a bit is Jerry Martin. As the regular viewers know, Jerry Martin is a dispensary owner from Whitewood, Saskatchewan, that had a dispensary for 4 years, and then legalization came along, and legalization didn't include him. And so he got a letter to cease and desist what he was doing there with his dispensary, which is cruel and unusual to tell a dispensary owner who's dealing with medical patients to close their dispensary. So of course he couldn't do that, and that ended up in arrest and seizure of his assets. And now it's been, we've passed the 4-year mark, I'm pretty sure. I'll just confirm that in a second. But yeah, 4 years of being dragged through the process of trying to get a day in court with threats looming over his head and all the rest of it. And it's been quite a journey, and very privileged to have Jerry come on the show here on a weekly basis and update us on what's going on and how he's doing with handling all of this. And so, yeah, Jerry, good to see you, brother.
Good to see you, man.
Welcome.
Happy to be in the Cheech and Chong band.
Yeah, in the Healing Wave RV. This is very Cheech and Chong for sure.
Oh, it's cool, man.
You know, we got the smoke billowing out the sides, of course, because we test drugs here. We're all about testing our product. We might try to make sure that.
I'm a firm believer in that.
I am
I
too.
test anything I
the
never
government
sell.
said that was important, so we try to do that on a daily basis.
I think
We
it
make
used
sure.
to be mandatory. The doctors had to kind of test those drugs before. I remember the LSD one said, "Please try me before you give to your clients."
Yeah. Well, and you know, if there's anything interesting about them, of course, they're trying it while they're going through university and getting their degree to be a doctor. You know, there's a lot of testing going on there too. I prefer testing in the cannabis world myself. I think that other shit's dangerous.
Oh, I love the psychedelic world, man. Oh, I went and did the 5-MeO yesterday again.
Yeah, hey, and that's really helping you, right?
Oh man. Yeah.
Because you've had some issues, you've had some anger issues and some past demon issues.
Yesterday was going through releasing all that anger. Yeah, it's so therapeutic.
And you're off Facebook. You don't do Facebook
Don't
anymore.
do Facebook anymore. Don't drink coffee
I kind of
anymore.
miss you, but then I don't miss
Every
some of
once
that.
in a while, I think about it.
But you're more balanced in your life now than you
far
were
more.
back when you were doing that as well, right? And although you have a lot of reason to be angry, anger doesn't really help very much. It's not a very productive emotion.
No.
And you're having a better time dealing with that lately as well, too.
Oh yeah, far better. Yeah.
And got a lot of good things on the go.
Yeah.
You want to talk about what you got going on the go?
Sure, I got MindTech Therapeutics on the go. It's a new company. We're gonna ultimately our goal is to do most likely a freedom of thought case so that we can try and legalize at least LSD to start.
Right.
So we're going to be
for its
creating.
therapeutic value because it's, and there's a lot of evidence that really does help.
So we may go both angles, one or the other. We're not sure yet. We're building evidence and studies, and we're also going to be doing an LSD study here in the future as well.
Right on.
So people can be a part of that once we've got that. Website's not quite done, but it is mindtech.ca. It's probably going to take another couple of weeks before I've got that done.
Okay.
It's just so busy.
And is there another website as well that you want to promote?
Microdelics.ca. You can check out as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then there's a study going on, so you're still looking for people maybe to take part in that study?
Well, yeah, we will be. We're just debating on what study. I just retained Dr. Ira Price, so he's on our team now.
Nice.
So he'll be our CEO and heading up the studies him and Dr. Knowles will take care of the studies, but it's going to take, it doesn't take too long, I think. I think it takes about 3 months or so once we get into this to get the study. The problem is it's going to cost us probably $500,000 to do the study.
Right.
So we've got to get someone to fork up $500,000.
I see.
Yeah. Which
well,
we'll
it's a
do.
very valuable study, so I
Yeah.
think you'll probably get that
We've
somehow.
got several interested people that are wanting to fund studies,
Yeah.
and as well is to invest in the business. So we're just getting our investor deck and our executive summary done. I'm learning a lot of terms.
Right on. Sounds like a great journey.
Yeah.
And you're still fighting the dispensary raid back,
Yeah.
4 years ago now. We did pass the date, right? Was it November 7th?
November 7th, yeah.
Yeah, so we're past that now. Tomorrow being Remembrance Day coming up.
Yeah.
And now, you have a date for, some court appearance that could be involved with actually having a day in court. And that's August 24th to 26th?
Yeah, no, April.
April. What am I talking about,
Is
August?
Remembrance Day tomorrow?
Tomorrow's Remembrance Day.
This was holiday.
It's a holiday?
Eat your burger.
Well, you get a minute
I'm
off.
the worst with the holidays. I wouldn't know if it was
You get
Christmas.
you get a minute off.
Yeah.
You get a minute off.
Yeah, that's
Right at
bonus.
11 o'clock.
Yeah.
We just stop for a minute
Chill.
and we think about,
Yeah.
how we got to be here and the sacrifices of so many people to get us here
Yeah.
because we've
It's
certain-
not just then, it's still the sacrifices a lot of them are making around the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people still fighting for freedom because that's what it's supposed to be about.
It's kind of like us, we're fighting for freedom.
We certainly
Yeah.
are.
Drug
Yeah.
war.
I'm not about guns
It
and,
is.
and,
It's a real war.
an armed revolution, but I'm about a peaceful evolution, and I'm about the truth rising to the top, and that people getting recognized for the individual free spirits that we are, and it's never anybody's right once you've had your parents and your guardians bring you to that point where now you're your own individual free spirit. It's nobody's right to bully anybody to do or not do things they want to do or don't want to do
Yes.
if they're not hurting anybody else. And that's the freedom that I'm hoping we can evolve into. It should be easy, really, if we got enough people to really understand that that's what, that in this life, you shouldn't be bullied by people. It's a fairly easy concept.
I liked your point in the documentary the other day that people can't really be themselves if they're controlled.
They're not.
Yeah, that's true.
They don't grow into the people that they would be otherwise because now they're focused on that which makes them not free.
Yeah.
And they'll do all kinds of crazy things to try to establish that freedom or fight that lack of freedom. To the point of saying, fuck you, I'm putting a needle in my arm, right?
Yeah.
And certainly for me it was, I'm not allowed to drink. Oh, well, let's go get some booze and let's, knock that one down. It's the obligation of adolescence to find those barriers and knock them down. That's what we do. And there's lots of danger in that process. That's just the way it is. That's how life works. If you get through it, you're wise and strong and smart, and that which doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But it's a dangerous time of life, and we really shouldn't be burdening our adolescents with telling them they can't do all kinds of dangerous shit that they need to just understand the parameters of without having to go and do it because they're told they can't,
Yeah, an educated choice.
We can see what prohibition of drugs has resulted in.
Fear doesn't do anybody any good.
Here's your two pre.
Well, there's healthy fear.
Well, there's healthy fear,
I
but
believe
not
in healthy
forced fear.
But I think you should fear unhealthy fear.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a whole other topic there. So your court case coming up involves a constitutional challenge, and it's about access to medical cannabis, and especially for people with barriers. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so there's no storefronts right now. There's only recreational storefronts. So everybody that's medical, they have to order their stuff online or grow it themselves. And in many cases, they obviously order it online. Problem is,
If they can.
If they can, and that's the problem. A lot of people don't have credit cards. They don't have money.
Bank
to begin
bank
with.
accounts,
Some of them
ID.
can come up with $5 a day maybe to get that gram, which most of these stores don't sell for $5 a gram anyways. And if they're ordering online, then they got to pay for fees and shipping fees. And
Well, the ones
taxes
that
and-
this system leaves behind are the ones that need help the most. They're the vulnerable people that really require compassion because they are in a place where they can't afford these things or don't have these things. And in many cases, they're suffering greatly with their physical disabilities and emotional issues to do with the trauma that they've suffered for, all of their life in whatever ways. People that are down and poor get traumatized on a regular basis over and over again.
They're
That's
in a
what
constant
happens.
state of trauma.
Constant state of trauma, and more trauma being added all the time. As
More stress,
more stress. I mean, I could go on to all of some of the different things. I just don't want to. But I think we can all understand that. So the most vulnerable in our society, the ones that we really should have the most compassion for, most of them are really abused children. Not all, because a lot of times it's things that happen in adulthood where you suffer the horrible loss of a loved one or a traumatic accident of some sort. On and on it goes. But a lot of people that are struggling that we've meet down here and we get to know, their issues started in childhood. Childhood sexual abuse or losing a parent or just kids don't take things like you do once you're mature.
They take them pretty seriously.
They really do,
And,
trauma is 10 times or 100 times harder for a child to deal with than it is for an adult
and
to
after
deal
30, 40 years of living out of trauma, it's hard to change that trauma.
And acting out by turning to drugs and alcohol and other things that people do to try to compensate for the trauma that they're trying to deal with. Addiction comes in many, many different forms, and most of that addiction it's a compulsive behavior that's driven to try to compensate for trauma that's happened, and it's a response to that trauma. And so, they're but for the forces of nature go any one of us. It could be any of us, and it is our brothers and sisters and uncles and aunts that are that are suffering in these situations. We really need to have a much more compassionate society when it comes to that. And this whole prohibition of drugs is all about targeting that particular vulnerable community. And really, the reason it's done is because they're using it as a scapegoat. They're using these people as scapegoats to be able to justify the prohibition of these things, because the real thing is they want to sell you their shit. And these things are, something that they can't control. They can't control plants like they can control synthetic drugs that they can stamp out themselves. So anyway, got me going on that.
Well, they clearly can't control the drug supply period.
Space Jam.
No. They can't control the drug supply in a prison.
No. Yes, sir.
Whatever you want in jail, you can get.
That's for sure.
And there's no doing that. The whole mechanism has just built into this industry, this huge, multifaceted industry of groups that have been all through our decades of life have been prohibition. And there's a whole bunch of groups that have learned how to make money on prohibition. And so the whole lies have been perpetrated and continued, and the stigmatization of the cannabis and the other drug using people has continued, all to make profits for those people that are involved in arresting and caging and all of that. The courts are just so expensive, and so much of what policing is about, and so much of what our courts are involved in is to do with drug offenses, and especially cannabis offenses.
Yeah,
you need to stop all of this.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. Yeah.
It's such a travesty of justice and such a waste of our money, and it ruins so many people's lives, and it's really an affront to freedom. And that's what we started talking about, was just how, when you're not free, you do things you wouldn't otherwise do. I don't know what I would do if marijuana, or if we were free. It's not about marijuana. Marijuana is just my example. It's such a great example. They provided us with such a wonderful example of how we're not free. Because if they can make it a criminal offense to grow, trade, or have possession of this amazing, beneficial, non-harmful plant, then holy fuck, we're not free. But my issue is freedom, and that's just the best example that there is. But if I wasn't in a world where we're not free and we're oppressed by these financially elite forces that want to monopolize and exploit us, then I wouldn't be sitting in an RV on the side of the road selling
across from the cop
weed,
shop there.
Just daring the cops and everybody else to come and try to do something about it, because if they do, it's like, hey man, you're murdering people. Like, it's this serious. But it's more than just that they're now murdering people by restricting access to cannabis during an epidemic of overdose deaths from a poison drug supply. Oh my God, they're doing that? It's about freedom, for fuck's sakes. And that's what we have to fight. We always have to fight those forces that would take away our freedom and the freedom of our children and the next generation to come. It's the duty of all of us, because otherwise, look what happens. You know, they get sneaky, they get in there, they even in a democracy with public servants, they find the ways to corrupt the fucking system.
They made more laws, far more laws than there ever were.
You just made me think of something. Not only can they not keep drugs out of society, there's no way we can keep corruption out of politics. You know, those two things are just.
Well, actually, no, you had a really
givens.
really good point. If you had everybody following around cameras and everybody live, that would stop a lot for sure.
It would if it made it that it was. You see, I think in my idealistic mind, I think it used to be that you'd be walking down the street with your son and you would see the politician, you know, the person in government, the public servant on the other side, and you'd go, hey Jimmy, look, there's Mr. Jones, and he's a good man. You know, he does good for us. He's dedicated his life to be a public servant and to help us be safe and all that we need. That's how I think it started out to be. I'm probably just, being really naive about that. It was probably all about politicians being put in place to protect the interests of the real rich people. That's what it's probably all about, always. But that's what I would like. I think that's how it's got to work. Is that just like being an activist used to be not looked up to in society very much, and then it became kind of cool to be an activist, and then the activists became the go-to people for talking about any issue. You want to know what the activists have to say, because they're the ones who are going to do the research, and they're going to be telling you the truth where you might not get it elsewhere. Just like that, I think we need to make it cool to be a politician. To make it to be like, hey, there's somebody with integrity. There's somebody who's standing up for us and keeping those fucking corporations from raising the prices too much on stuff and paying us too little for stuff and scaring us all the time into buying their shit. So that's how I see the future. Exactly. So I don't know, limited, accountable, transparent public servants who really understand that their job is to protect the individual rights of all of us.
Maybe you should get into politics.
This is my into politics. This is how I'm involved with politics. I'm saying, let's put some things in place to limit whoever it is that's calling the shots here, so that they can't call shots that would even be corrupt. And then let's make them transparent, like you just mentioned. Let's have a video crew follow anybody around that's an MP, and we can all look at MP Watch on our phone and see what your MP and his MP and our MP is doing at any given moment when they're on the job. And no closed-door meetings with any of these lobbyists, because that's just a fucking... that's spin doctoring to the max to call it lobbying. It's really bribing and threatening, obviously, behind closed doors. That's how it works. And then accountability. So that, if they do, cross the line and decide to sell us out, and sign the paper there, and now this is law, and you're going to have to buy this guy's shit, and you can't grow your own because, it's just a crime.
Can't pull a Trudeau and fire everybody and hire all new staff.
And if they're accountable for doing that, then we would get a different type of person running for those positions. If they couldn't be got to by the corporate elite that way, and if they knew that their job was to be Superman to protect us from the corporate elite, fuck, we'd love politicians, Just like if the cops weren't worried about what kind of flowers we have in our bags or in our flaps or whatever, and they were just there to make sure that nobody robbed us or beat us up, we'd love those people around anytime. Man. Fuck, come on in, share a spliff with us, this is the way the world should be, but we got a little ways to go, but this is my way to get there. I don't know. I'm going to die before I find out if it worked or not, but we're trying our best, I think I've set something up that they can't stop the momentum of. So, if I leave tomorrow, then there's enough good people around that we keep all this going.
For sure.
And somewhere down the road, damn it, they're going to have to allow community cannabis stores with low barrier access so the poor people can have good quality cannabis too.
The ice cream cart guy.
Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding.
We were talking about that too, Well, the bicycle courier thing for sure. Anyway.
Good night, Mom.
So all right. What else is going on? Anything else you want to add before we bring Glenn back? Bring Glenn back. We're going to talk a little bit about the Freedom Tour.
Oh, awesome, cool.
Just, because they happen to be in a van that reminds me. Of,
well, at least if they can come sharp and just fucking boot her, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know how fast you'll go in this.
It's strong if not fast. You know, it'll go through barricades, I'm sure. I'm thinking this is the vehicle for snow when it comes, because it's got the tandem tires in the back there.
Watch for the news crews first.
Yeah.
See news crews start creeping up, something's gonna happen.
I see.
They tell them all first, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, I
sure.
told
It's
them all we
worked
were
out,
here.
eh?
That's another interesting point, because I did send news briefs to all these different mainstream news media about what had happened here, what was going on, and I tried to frame it in the correct way with respect to the seriousness of it, and I didn't get a response back from any of them. So I don't understand, but maybe they're part of the corrupt system too.
Oh, sorry.
They need fake news these days.
Ignorance is what do they say? That?
Bliss.
Yeah.
Ignorance is bliss. Bliss is good. I want to go for some of that one of these days too. I want you to tell me more later on about the experiences that you're having with the psychedelics and how that's helping you. Because I think I might want to do some of that myself.
Oh, dude, it's next level. I mean, every time it's just wow.
I believe I'm still suffering from PTSD from childhood, and that kind of that's also been involved in why I fight the way that I do about the things that I fight for. So anyway, I'm very interested in that. And microdelics.ca. And the other one will come online in a couple of weeks. And we'll talk about that next week.
Mindtech.ca.
All right.
Oh yeah, we're gonna. I think we didn't talk about giving away kits and stuff that we were supposed to do because they had to shut down. I think that kind of interrupted stuff.
I think so too, because I forgot about
Glenn
that.
said he'd put something together, and I'll write up a little something. So be patient, and we're gonna give away some kits. And
the suspense continues. Look forward to that. We will get back on that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jerry.
All right.
Very good, sir. We'll talk to you next week, if not before. Send Glenn back in here. All right. So, Facebook's a funny little social media platform, and it has its good and its bad for sure. It reminded me today about a time in my life where I was driving across the country in a van all painted up to educate a little bit about what freedom means and what the role of government is supposed to be, and what happens if you try to prohibit substances like plants, and the value of cannabis. And those were the 4 tenets of the Freedom Tour that I took a whole bunch of people on a ride with me back then from 2006, 7, and 8. We did that, and then again in 2012. So Glenn, you got a picture there, don't you?
I do.
Welcome back.
Thank you. While we're looking for the picture, John Murray says to say a shout out to Dirty Dave. He just got out of the hospital.
Oh, really? Well, he's out of the hospital, that's for sure.
Dirty Dave, who just got home from 11 days in the hospital, had a 12-hour surgery.
Wow.
And he's recovering at home and doing well.
Oh, man, all the best, Dirty Dave, man.
Got that message
Get better soon. Don't push anything. Just relax. Do what you need to do for yourself.
All right, there you go, sir.
So there's the Freedom Tour van. Bob High did this onto the van there. Painted that beautiful logo. We had some flaps on the back with some pot leaves on there. And when you're driving cross country, or when I'm driving cross country, I have to smoke weed on a regular basis. So. Every hour I've got to smoke another joint if it's an 8-hour driving day. And I need to do that to combat the pain of arthritis and to be able to focus properly. It's always been that way for me. I don't recommend any novice users of cannabis drive until they understand the effects of cannabis and then can understand for themselves whether or not they're in control of those effects and whether they would be aided or abetted or not by using that in driving. But for me, it was a focusing tool for sure on the trip there. And my only point in that is that there was smoke billowing out the windows of my Freedom Tour weed van, all the way across Canada for 5.5 months there. I had to do several sobriety tests along the side of the road there. I passed them all, of course, even with my arthritis and with some nervousness to do with cops pulling you over and wanting you to go through tests and stuff and driving around a van with pot leaves on it.
Because they knew you were coming through, right? Because of the Freedom Tour, the coverage that you're getting, the media exposure and stuff like that, they knew?
Well, maybe, or maybe they just saw the pot leaves mostly, or the smoke.
That would be it, too,
maybe the smoke, I don't know. There was a few roadblocks mostly that were the issue. It wasn't so much getting pulled over as it was going through roadblocks, and there they were, and then it was like, okay, you over to the side there.
Wow.
But, that was an amazing trip.
Were you sleeping in the van?
No, I had the ability to sleep in the van, but I did a few times. That's true, I did, because...
You did? Look like Neil with a bit more facial hair there, eh?
Yeah, you know, Roxanne, my girlfriend at the time, we were together for 15 years, and she endured me going on the road for 5.5 months at a time, away from her. I had to be focused on what I was doing, and you know, when she was around, I was more focused on her, and so she was such a trooper to be able to endure having me go on those trips and still stay my girlfriend for all those years. That was just awesome. But she wasn't a big fan of the facial hair, so, and I'm not a big fan of shaving. But, you know, somewhere in there's a balance. But the balance during those times was when I would go on the road, I'd throw away the razor.
And do you remember where this picture was taken? What city were you in?
I do.
What city were you in?
That's in Burlington, Ontario.
I was going to say something Ontario or maybe Manitoba because it looks really flat.
That's across the street from Alison Murden's place.
There you go. So you do remember that.
Yeah, I do remember where that was.
See, pot does not affect your memory. 8 years ago.
Well, who knows how much I've forgotten? I don't know how much I've forgotten, but I do remember that.
Yeah.
And a lot of other things. You know, the van worked very, very well all the way across. I went all the way to the tip of Cape Breton Island in 2012.
Went to Peggy's Cove?
To Neil's Harbor.
Neil's Harbor.
Neil's Harbor is
you had to go to Neil's Harbor, didn't
I didn't know until I got really close, and it was a Thanksgiving weekend.
Wow.
And, you know, there was these 3 different little harbors there, and they were named so appropriately. And on the Thanksgiving Monday, it was Neil's Harbor. And if you look at the map and the way it is with the horizontal and lateral lines there, that is actually the farthest eastern point on Cape Breton Island. Canada
really?
continues on a little more with Newfoundland.
Okay.
But for my trip, that was the farthest eastern point.
And do they have a ferry from there that goes to Newfoundland?
Not from Neil's Harbor. It's from one that's 2 over, because you're kind of going that way, and this one's kind of this way.
Yeah.
But I had my dad's ashes with me on that trip, and I let some of him go there in the Atlantic Ocean.
I'm getting the impression that maybe they spelled Neil Neal. Did they?
No, it was Neil.
It
was right after me. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's cool.
And, I don't have at the tip of my tongue those other 2 that were so important as well, as far as just how though they were synchronistic with the trip.
Yeah.
There was a lot to do with that segment of the trip as well.
It'll come to you at 1 o'clock in the morning tonight when you're late in bed trying to go to sleep.
All of my trip had been calculated out as far as the town hall meetings that I was going to have, or the mayor's offices that I needed to make appointments with, or all of these things that I was doing. And I tried to have a little cushion of time.
Yeah.
That didn't work out at all, because I got arrested in Edmonton because on the 2009 Freedom Tour I had charges against me in Tabor that I thought had been dropped, but they weren't, so I had failures to appear, and that resulted in me having to leave Edmonton prison Friday evening, 2 in the morning, and then drive quickly to Saskatoon to get there for a meet and greet at 1 p.m. in the afternoon on that following Saturday, after getting my car out of impound with all of my weed all on the driver's seat in the impound yard, and the impound yard driver or operator going, "Hey man, what's going on? There's a whole bunch of drugs in your vehicle there, and the cops just said to give it back to you like that, and why?" And I said, "Well, because they're probably mine. You know, I had my license by that time in 2012 to have possession of all these things."
When they do that,
they were so good to me. The police in Edmonton were amazing. You know, there's all kinds of stories about that too.
Yeah.
But I'm on the tip of Cape Breton Island right now, and all of my events had been properly measured out for when I was going to be where, except for one, and that was in Sydney, Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
That when I was on the way from Chris Backer's house, shout out to the East Coast CSP, great work you guys are doing. You're so impressing the hell out of me, and I love it. But Chris Backer put me up there. I was sick at his house for a while. I had one of my cannabis hyperemesis syndrome episodes there.
Yeah.
But then I was due to be in Sydney, and it wasn't until I left Chris's place and I was on the highway that I realized that, well, shit, by the time I get to Sydney, they're going to be closed, and there's no way to make it there on time. The mayor's office, this was. And this was now the end of the Friday of the Thanksgiving long weekend.
Oh wow! So definitely gonna be nobody there.
So I had nothing to do for like 3 solid days.
Wow!
And I hadn't even thought of any of that, and I hadn't thought of where I was going to spend Thanksgiving either.
Yeah.
I had spent Thanksgiving, the other 3 Freedom Tours at Bryce Hubble's place in Thunder Bay. That's where that worked out, and I had a great Thanksgiving dinner with him and his family. Bryce, if you're watching, I love you, brother. I hope you don't kill too many of the deer, but I'm glad you get the odd one, because I know how much you really value that, and you know, that's the right thing to do probably in those parts of Canada.
That's what they do. And ride snowmobiles.
Bryce is just an awesome dude. And so anyway, that's where I did spend Thanksgiving. But now I'm realizing it's the Thanksgiving long weekend. I've just spent the better part of 5 months going across Canada, having an amazing group of experiences from all these different towns. Like I said, arrested in Edmonton. That was so moving there, where the cop who finally processed me. They got me out of the Edmonton jail at about 2 o'clock in the morning on a Friday night.
Yeah.
You know what happens if you get arrested on a Friday?
Usually you wait till Saturday morning to see.
No, you're waiting until Monday before you see a judge.
Oh, okay.
It's
I
not
know
a
that
good.
they got GPs that come here in British Columbia right to the jail.
Well, that guy here he was, bless his heart, the old judge there. He provided me with an opportunity to pay bail.
Yeah.
Started out at $1,000, and I'm like, I don't have $1,000. I don't know where to get $1,000. You know, I don't know anybody here really, and so you know, I'm on this tour talking about this and that, and I was laying on a floor talking to him because my back is bad. I've got real back issues, and so that by the time I'd been at the end of the rally in Edmonton at a park there, where I was now loading stuff back into my van, and then they arrested me, and then they put me into a cell where it's all concrete, just a concrete bench to sit on.
Yeah.
I could hardly stand up by the end of any 420 or any other rally that we do anyway, and this one I was doing kind of all by myself with a few volunteers in an Edmonton park. And so I was done, and now I've been waiting on this concrete bench, but now they get me a hearing with the judge. And he says $1,000, and I apologized for being on the floor, but I told him I cannot stand. I'm so sorry, but you know, this is all I can do. So I'm laying on the floor watching him on a screen, watching me on a screen, and then it's $1,000, and I'm like, oh sir, I don't have that. I don't know where to get that. And so he made it. I think it was $435 or something like that, which is the exact amount that I actually had that they had taken away from me. So anyway, and then I got to go out. The superintendent down below, he came to me at one point and he said, Mr. Magnuson, we understand, or he said, I want you to understand that we know the difference here between the real criminals and the pot people, and we treat them accordingly. And I thanked him for that. The 2 arresting officers were awesome. The one cop's brother was a leap-off member. I could have just slipped out of my handcuffs. They didn't care. They had lots of good things to say to me on the way to the lockup.
Oh, I love that.
And the guy that processed me out, you know, that brings you back your belt and your shoes so you don't whack yourself in the head or hang yourself or whatever it is. You know, he was really good. And when we got upstairs, because it's underground in Edmonton at the downtown police station, and then you go up to the street level, it's about 2 in the morning. He had gotten me a chef's schmuck.
Oh,
because it was cold, you know, and I had no place to go.
Oh, wow.
I tried sleeping under a table in a hotel lobby.
Oh, no.
You know, somebody comes and lifts up the thing and says, you can't sleep there, buddy. The bus stops are not designed for sleep at all.
No.
But anyway, this cop said to me when we got upstairs, he lit a cigarette and he said, Neil, he said, I smoke weed.
Yeah.
He said, all my friends and family smoke weed.
Oh, wow.
And he said, I wish you all the best in what you're trying to do here.
Nice, nice.
And that brought me to tears, and I had to make a video right after that. I didn't use his real name just to protect him.
Yeah.
But, you know, it really, really struck me just how corrupt our system is and how wrong it is, and that we're hurting on this side of the equation where the cops are the devil for us and they're evil. But on their side, they're human beings too.
And they're just following their job rules.
And they're hurt by prohibition, not just because how much people don't trust or respect them for what they're doing with enforcing the laws, but, you know, when they're people that also use cannabis and have to hide in the closet, like so many of us consumers, you know, have to do.
Now they don't have to hide so much.
Not so much.
No, not so much.
Went to dinner the other night, my son and I, at a white spot, 2 VPD officers, old veteran, former drug squad guys sitting kitty corner to us, came and sat at the same time as us. We all ordered the same beef dip and fries, 4 beef dip and fries. The one guy was about 7 feet, 400 pounds. He was incredibly huge. And he got up to go to the bathroom, and I said to the other one, I mean, I think he should probably have 3 or 4 of those beef dip and fries. And the other cop says to me, no, he should have a big salad. But
did they know you?
Yeah, I think they knew who I was. You know,
Yeah,
I certainly recognized them from previous, events.
Yeah.
You know, I've been around the city for my whole life. But I said to him, it must be hard to be a cop in a corrupt world.
Yeah.
And then I explained what was happening to us here with the Healing Wave, and that we were now being kicked out onto the street and the rest of that. And the one cop said, yeah, people would tell me that this legalization was going to change everything, and he said, yeah, right. He said, unless the price comes down, nothing's going to change. And before he could even say that, I said, yeah, maybe at $1 a gram. Maybe at $1 a gram, things would change. But they're not going to change if the government wants to continue to charge even higher than prohibition prices. It's not like the Hells Angels and the Vietnamese gangs or anybody else that's that they're concerned about are going to go, oh yeah, I can see the government's got it under control now. I'm just going to walk away from my $1 million fucking thing here. Ain't going to happen. But he said that he had to laugh at the RCMP because it's legal now, and you can smoke weed, and if you're an RCMP officer, you can smoke weed too. But he said if you're an RCMP officer, you can't report for duty 30 days after you've smoked weed. And he said, for us, it's only 8 hours.
Well, they got to change that rule for them too.
But for the RCMP, they got to change that.
Yeah,
that's hypocritical.
Oh, I know. Well, because it's drugs, man. You might lead to the harder stuff. Harder.
Cannabis is so much more a gateway, off of those substances than it is a gateway onto them. Everybody's got their own personal story, and I'm sure for some people, cannabis led them down the path. But for most people that I know, cannabis didn't wind them up down that path at all. And I know tons of people who will tell you that cannabis is the reason they got off that path that they had gotten themselves onto. So,
besides the Edmonton story, what's the best memory that you have of your tour?
In 2012, there with the Freedom Tour van.
What's the thing that stands out the most?
Well, I don't know why.
Here's
what comes to mind immediately. I don't know why, but here's what comes to mind when you immediately say that, and that was pulling into Grand Forks, coming down the big, windy, steep hill there into Grand Forks, and here the RCMP have got a little roadblock set up there, and so they pull me over, and now I got to do the sobriety test for them, and these were 2 young cops. And I educated those guys at the side of the road there. Well, that's what the mission was. I was one of the people that my son and myself and Steve Finley were the 3 people that had the privilege and honor to sign LEAP into existence back when LEAP stood for Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. Their Law Enforcement Action Partnership now, which is a very vague name which does not specifically say what they do, whereas Law Enforcement Against Prohibition certainly did. And Jack Cole, who started that group, and Allison Murden and many of the other members of that group quit in disgust. When that change happened, they felt it was a sellout. And in fact, I think LEAP is probably in favor of the current legalization scheme that is spreading across North America. Spreading across
states during the last election have become
there's
legal,
big money in legalization. If you can pull off
went with decriminalization of all drugs or heavy duty heroin and stuff like that too. So
decrim is a much better way to describe what should happen, and that's depending on the version. There's many different definitions of decrim. They just need to stop punishing anybody for anything to do with weed, basically. But instead, in all of these places, even in Colorado and California for sure, there's huge penalties and a lot of law enforcement resources put into trying to put down the black and gray and green market that's not the legal market, and that all needs to stop.
That's okay, I'll get it.
So, they're just trying to continue artificially high prices and complete control over the resource. and that's wrong.
Yeah. That's
So
definitely wrong.
you know, I'm not a big fan of legalization so far. You know, every time I hear another state has decided to legalize, well, that's great as far as the optics go. I'm sure there's benefits to it, but there's also still, so far, all the downsides of they're still wasting a lot of tax dollars. There's still a lot of people they're calling criminals who are doing nothing to harm anybody. They're just trying to grow some weed or sell some weed. And so, yeah.
Now, 8 years later, would you do this tour again, and maybe on this side of the CSP, so we could go to other cities and show them how to do the fentanyl thing that you're doing here?
Oh, I got to finish with the RCMP though. When I did the sobriety test, it wasn't just that I educated the cops.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just that I passed their little sobriety test. You know, even though I've got some arthritis issues in my legs and it makes it difficult to walk the line, and there were some other things, but anyway, I passed their test. It was that they said there's warrants out for you in Alberta. So be careful if you're going into Alberta because there's warrants out for you.
Yeah.
And I said, what are you talking about? I mean, I've never lived in Alberta. I mean, that can't be true.
Yeah.
And he said, oh no, he said you got 4 failures to appear, and you got felony or this or indictable that, you know, because I had a fair amount of resin. I had Butter King Butter was one of my sponsors.
Yeah,
he gave me some butter to take and let people try. So I had, you know, a fair amount of cannabis and resin on me, and it resulted in 3 different levels of charging. And then the failures to appear, which are serious as well.
Yeah.
So when I went into Alberta, I didn't go to the police stations anymore. I was going to all the police stations as one of the people that brought LEAP into Canada.
Yeah.
Part of the Freedom Tour was to go to visit all the police stations, much as I had a fear of cops and I always had weed on me.
But you're going there.
But I had to do it, you know, it was the right thing to do. And so I got better and better at being calm and talking to cops and listening to what they said about prohibition and stuff like that. So
it makes it easier too when they're not arresting you on the spot for being there. You know, they get a little bit more comfortable with them, right? Yeah.
So I didn't go to the police stations. I just went to the mayor's offices and to the different activist places and some of the media. And then I put that rally on in Edmonton, and that's when, you know, I got arrested and all that happened. I love traveling across Canada. I would do a tour again. You know,
we could call the CSP Freedom Tour.
Maybe, you never know.
If I settle this year, next year, 2021,
we'll see. I'm not committing to a name, Glenn. I'm not committing to a name. We'll see what the right name is.
Old crazy guys
but I would commit to. I would probably. You know, I would love to travel across Canada again.
One more time, eh?
Oh, more than that. You know, I love the trip. I love the people. I've got lots of friends in lots of places. So many memories. You know, I skated 1,000 miles every year for 3 years in a row. Yeah. And when you're skating on the highways of Canada, you really get to take the time to suck it all in. To look at everybody's picket fence and fancy, you know, yard ornaments and all the other things that are there. Now when I drive that trip, you know, you're going a little faster. But I don't like to drive fast when I'm traveling across Canada. My
20
dad.
kilometers over, that's my limit.
I got genetically my foot. This foot is heavier than this foot.
Is it? Yeah.
By quite a bit.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
Oh yeah.
But you know, I guess I got it from my dad. He had a heavy gas pedal foot as well.
Now they have cruise control, so you can handle that.
Yeah. I like that a lot. I do.
Don't have to worry about the foot,
as long as I don't set it too high, I'm all good.
See, like I've experienced what you have going across Canada. People are offering their homes to me, opening up their homes, feeding me, smoking with me, and I brought smoke with them, right? So that's why it makes me think that you and I would be a fucking great hit right across Canada.
I like to take my time.
Yeah.
I like to see everything. I don't drive after it gets dark. Not because I can't drive in the dark.
10 o'clock.
I don't like missing stuff. I know that when it's dark, there's beautiful lakes and there's wonderful things to see, and I can't see them because it's just dark. So I don't like to drive at night.
Now,
and I don't like to speed.
There's one benefit of driving at night in Northern Ontario, and that is the Northern Lights.
Well, you go specifically to see those.
Yeah,
I've done that.
I've gone Route 11, which is up in the northern part of it, instead of 17, right? And you do see the Northern Lights. If you're driving at that time
I have seen them in Ontario, and we drove specifically to try to find them. Yeah,
beautiful thing. So
but you know, the point is, I don't like to speed, and I don't like to miss anything.
Yeah.
And when you're skating, of course, you don't miss nothing. You see every grasshopper as you're going by.
Yeah.
But so on the trip with the van there, the idea is to have a little bit of cushion of time between every place that I was going to. I had all of my dates set out for me, and then I got arrested in Edmonton.
And that just took up all the cushion.
Oh, man.
Oh, yes.
So, I was supposed to leave after the rally Edmonton evening to go to Saskatoon.
Which is about 12
And I probably
hours.
would have got halfway there. I was going to stop in Malag where my mom was born.
Yeah.
And then go to, the rest of the way in the morning to get there for a 1 p.m. meet and greet with
That's
people.
not bad, yeah.
But I got out at 2 o'clock in the morning from and on the Friday night from Edmonton jail. I tried to sleep different places, the bus stop, the hotel lobby, other things. Nothing worked, so I just got on a bus and I rode around on a bus for a while until it was time for the vehicle impound lot to open.
Yeah.
And then straight there, and some wonderful people in Edmonton. I forget their name. I'm so sorry. But they helped me out. They gave me they bought some of the things that I had available. I had cannabis seeds that I sold all the way across all the time. And so then I had money to go, but boy, I had to get on my horse and travel. And I did stop for 10 minutes in Malag and go, yep, okay, that's where Mom was born. All right, okay.
Sorry, Mom,
And so, get to Saskatoon. I made it to Jeff's place in Saskatoon, Skunk Funk, for 1 o'clock, did the meet and greet. Now, get my ass to Tabor, because I got to get to Tabor for the Monday court hearing.
Wow.
So, or was it Tuesday? One of those two. But oh man, there was no time to stop. I had to drive late into the night. I had to speed the whole way. Like, boy, did I ever.
Speaking of which, we're almost out of power.
Oh, well, we're almost at 5:30 too, so it'll almost be a good time there.
We've been having fun.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much power we got.
Very little.
Very little.
So if we just disappear, that's what happened.
If you say farewell first, you won't have to worry about dropping
off. So if I cut it off right there, there is so much more we could talk about on the Freedom Tour.
Yeah.
There was 4 of them in total. They were amazing, epic journeys of meeting the Prime Minister on all 4 occasions.
Yep.
And a lot of stuff that came out of that. So many connections of people that I helped put together and people that I got to meet and spend time with. I learned so many lessons. Maybe
you and I should do this.
If we get our situation with the Healing Wave settled here at some point, hopefully in the next month or so we can get into another storefront and feel like we've got a little more stability. Then maybe we can focus some of these shows on some of those memories and talk about some of those amazing people that helped make it work and have been doing great things up until today as well.
So you did, we're running out of power, so I was going to,
Probably running out of power.
I was going to go into something else. But
we'll fade to dead when the power runs, but in the meantime, I want to say that Pot TV has a number of shows that are all very informative and entertaining that happen throughout the week. We got Carly Marley and BC Bud Gal doing the 420 Lifestyle Show on Mondays. I'll be back next Tuesday with another episode of the continuing saga of the little community cannabis store with the Truth, Hope, and Change show. On Wednesday, Greg Williams will be giving his amazing perspectives on this crazy, twisted, upside-down world we live in with From Under the Influence, 4 o'clock on Wednesdays. Thursdays, it's it's BC Bud Gal again with the Morning Glory, somewhere around 10 a.m. Because Johnny's on Friday with How's It Growing? Now it's How Is It Cut Down and Put into Bags, probably. But he's always got a great amount of information that he puts out in a very entertaining way. And that's on Fridays at 4. Saturday, Boss Lissa coming live from High Score, which I guess is not still operating, but they're doing the show. Is that true?
Well, it's called High Noon, and it's right next to where High Score was.
It is, but High Score itself is still not operating and functioning because of the COVID stuff.
Yeah.
And so Boss Lissa Saturdays at High Noon, which would be 12 o'clock in Vancouver. And Sunday is the day you can either relax or catch up on the shows you missed or whatever and stuff like that. And a lot of stuff in the archives. I'm not sure how to get at them, but computer...
Go to pot.tv. Plus we have new stuff coming. I've got a huge 3-hour and 45-minute video on COVID and herbal medicines that I'm still finishing editing. I'm going to run back to the studio and do it, but it will be uploaded soon. So yeah, there's tons of stuff. Never a shortage of things to watch on Pot TV.
I see. Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff in the archives as well. I think this is we're in the 60s now for how many THC shows that we've done, and we're going to continue to do them, I guess, until we get the get to the actual truth and the hope results in proper change. And then maybe I can retire.
Not before we do a trip across Canada.
Well, a trip across Canada could
And we're gonna find you a fishing spot.
Could be a
quiet
fishing spot finding trip.
Yes, hey,
you know.
I heard your interview with Kim and Al.
That was good. I was really happy to be on the Pace Radio show there. Check those shows out. They've been running for a long time. They do fine work there. Yeah. And well, you know, and that's the truth of it. That's the thing of it.
We're at 1%.
Okay.
1%.
So the truth of it better be here.
We'll let it fade off. You know, whenever we're gone, have as much fun as you can.